Okay, I'm going to get started by welcoming all of you guys to Wat Tung Yu. Welcome. Nice to see everyone. Good morning. Welcome to everyone who's joining us online as well. Today is what we call our Pali Canon and English study group, which I'll explain to you guys what that is in a little bit. Essentially, what I'm doing here each time I come to teach is helping students to be able to understand the path to enlightenment as taught by the Buddha. What enlightenment is where you've trained your mind to get to the point where it no longer experiences any discontent feelings. By the time you get to enlightenment, you will no longer experience any anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All these feelings and others can be eliminated from the mind through training of the mind. Oftentimes people think that these feelings are caused by the outside world, but it's actually being caused by your own mind. This is why you can actually eliminate them. So the Buddha figured out during his lifetime how to experience this enlightened mental state. And it's through gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. There's no belief in the teachings of the Buddha. You're focusing inward to be able to train your own mind and eliminate certain pollutions that he discovered in the mind. So we start each one of our classes with meditation because this is an important component to your practice to develop the mind to get to the enlightened mental state. But you wouldn't be able to just meditate your way to enlightenment. You need much more than just meditation to be able to attain enlightenment. But we do start each one of our classes with meditation because you wouldn't be able to get to enlightenment without meditation either. So if you'd like to join us for meditation, the way that I'm going to start is with some chanting to ease into the meditation. And if you'd like to chant along, you're more than welcome to. We have chanting sheets over there on the cabinet, which you're welcome to help yourself to. You'll be able to access those and chant right along because it actually helps you to get more benefit out of the meditation itself, where during the lifetime of the Buddha, he used chanting as a way to help his students commit the teachings to memory. Every 2 weeks, his students would come together and they would recite his teachings orally. So he used the chanting as a learning tool or as a learning device. So you can see that this isn't a rite, ritual, ceremony, worship, or prayer, or anything like that. There's none of that kind of stuff in the teachings of the Buddha. There's nothing mystical or magical. If you've seen these kinds of things associated with the teachings of the Buddha, those aren't the actual teachings of the Buddha. So if you'd like to chant along during the meditation, you're going to see some more benefit as you're easing the mind into the meditation itself. And if you end up getting one of these sheets and you read the English translations, you're going to see a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for the Buddha. Because of that, I don't think the Buddha even created these chants himself. They were probably created by his students either during his life or after his death. Because the Buddha wouldn't have walked around and said, here, chant these chants to me out of respect for me, right? This would be ego or arrogance and putting yourself above other people. Where by the time you've gotten to enlightenment, you don't think of the world in that way. You don't think of yourself as being above people or below people. You just think of everybody as being equal. So the Buddha wouldn't have handed out chants and asked people to start chanting these things to him. But if you learn from a teacher how to move from the anger, sadness, frustration, and all these other feelings to this peaceful and joyful mental state that is enlightenment, and this teacher didn't want anything from you or expect anything from you, they were just helping you out of the kindness of their heart, you might actually have a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for that person too. So that's why I think that these chants actually came from his students either during his life or after his death. So you guys are welcome to chant along if you like. And for those of you guys online, this chanting sheet, you can find it on our website at buddhadailywisdom.com. You just click on free books and then scroll down towards the bottom and you'll actually see the chanting sheet there underneath the learning resources. In terms of what I'm going to be doing next as part of the meditation is I'm going to guide you in a meditation session where I'm going to be providing you some instruction and guidance, teaching you how to meditate while we're actually meditating together. So you'll hear me doing that. Then there's going to be a period of time of quietness where we're just meditating together. Everyone here at the temple and everyone who's joining online, we're just all going to be meditating at the same time. Now, during this period of quietness, I'm sure you're going to hear occasional sounds. Here at the temple, you might hear a car going by, a dog barking, bird chirping, someone here might cough or sneeze. This is all completely normal. If you're in meditation with a craving for permanent silence and you hear a sound, you will cause your mind to be frustrated or annoyed. That's the mind craving permanence while you live in an impermanent world. things are constantly changing, but the unenlightened mind craves permanence. So if you understand the universal truth of impermanence, that everything around you is constantly changing, then when you hear a sound during meditation, you understand, oh, that's normal. That's the way the world works, that these sounds are going to arise, they're going to change, and they're going to fade away. And you don't need to cause your mind to be annoyed or frustrated or irritated or some other discontent feeling. So you'll hear occasional sounds during that period of time of quietness. Then we'll come out of the meditation with some more chanting. And then that's where I'll help you guys to understand what the Pali Canon and English study group is. And we'll actually start doing some of that as part of our class today. In terms of your body position for meditation, there's 4 positions that the Buddha taught: seated, lying, standing, and walking. And you would learn these different positions at different times as part of your journey to enlightenment. We have various courses and retreats that I share with students to be able to help them to learn all the teachings of the Buddha on the path to enlightenment. And these 4 positions are something that you learn kind of like assembling a tool belt for yourself, so you can use these different tools at different times in your journey to enlightenment. But oftentimes people are learning in the seated position. So I'll give you guys a little bit of guidance on the seated position, and then at maybe some other time you can learn these other positions. So in terms of the seated position, it's kind of like a primary position that a lot of people use for meditation. You could be sitting on the floor, in a chair. Maybe if you're at home, you're on a bench or a sofa or a wheelchair. You can really sit however you like. If you're on the floor, you might have some cushions under your rear. This is going to kind of help soften your seat a bit. And then some people like to bring their legs together in the cross-leg position. If this is comfortable for you, you could use it, but this isn't about everybody doing it exactly the same way. Because remember, the world is impermanent. Not everybody's body is exactly the same. So what I'm sharing with you are just recommendations or suggestions that you might consider. You can use any of these, or you can come up with your own, as long as your body's comfortable. That's what's important, that there's not pain in the body, but it's not experiencing this luxurious condition where the mind is sluggish either. So sometimes people like to bring their legs together in the cross-leg position. Sometimes people like to put their legs off the mat. This gets their hips up in the air, and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles, again, allowing the circulation to flow. The Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. But it's not about everyone doing it the same way. That's not actually possible. If you find this comfortable, you could use it. But some people like to put their palms on their thighs or their knees. Some people put their palms up. Some people rest their hands comfortably in their lap. So you can put your hands and arms wherever you like. And that's the same thing for anybody who's in a chair, or a bench, or a sofa, or a wheelchair. You can also sit however you like. Sometimes people like to put their feet flat on the floor or lightly crossed at the ankles. But you can see me sitting in a chair here with my legs crossed. So this is an option for you as well. And then you can put your hands and arms wherever you like. In terms of your upper body, it's helpful if this is erect with the sternum up and the shoulders back. This is going to help keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation, because this is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities from the mind and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities in the mind. So you'd like the mind to be attentive and alert during the meditation. Whereas if you were kind of slouched like this, the mind could probably be dull or lethargic. But if you were real rigid with the upper body, the mind could be overactive or uptight. So you'd like the upper body to be in the middle with the sternum up and the shoulders back, because not only will it keep the mind attentive and alert, but it'll make it easy for you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. So again, I'm going to do some chanting to ease into the meditation. You guys are welcome to join in, and then I'll come back in with the guidance afterwards. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakawa Bhutang Mahakavanang Apivateyami Savakato Mahakavata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namah โมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมะคะวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสกาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสัตตาตวามนุสรังพุทโธภาควาติ Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect. Just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath, a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathe in gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. สัมมาสัมพุทโธมหาเขวาพุทธังมหาเขวันหังอภิวาเตมิสวากขาโตมหาเขวตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเขวโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหาเขวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสกาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังพุทโธภาควาติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation, once again, welcome to all of you guys. Nice to see everyone here this morning. Welcome to everyone joining online as well. As I was sharing, today's our Pali Canon and English study group. We have many different programs here, different courses and retreats. And depending on where you are in your learning, you can join any of these particular types of learning opportunities for you. On Sunday and Wednesday, we have something called the group learning program, where each Sunday I go chapter by chapter in this book. It's titled Developing a Life Practice, The Path That Leads to Enlightenment. This is the first volume of our book series. And this is a great place for someone to start to really build a foundation in the path to enlightenment, because this individual that we refer to as the Buddha, he figured out how to be able to get to this enlightened mental state where the mind's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. The mind will no longer experience any discontent feelings. There won't be any more anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All of that can be eliminated from the mind through training of the mind. You'll notice that when you train your mind to the point of enlightenment, that the mind's focused. You'll have concentration, clarity, and deep memory. Because the Buddha discovered these different pollutions that are in the mind, and when you uproot those out of the mind will perform optimally. You'll notice that it's focused, concentrated. You'll have clarity of mind and deep memory. You'll notice that your personal and professional relationships are really blossoming. Right now, you might have some difficulties and struggles in some of your relationships where there might be bitterness and harshness and hostility. And oftentimes people blame those things on the other person, where in reality, this is actually coming from your own mind. You can actually solve this. You can get to the point where you don't put out bitterness and harshness and hostility. And then your relationships can really blossom. You'll see harmonious relationships, both personally and professionally. You can get to the point where your mind's not even experiencing a bad mood, that it'll be physically impossible for there to even be a bad mood in the mind. And this comes through training of the mind. So there's no belief here in the teachings of the Buddha. It's not about believing a bunch of things and then hoping something good happens when you die. It's about learning, growing, and developing in this life, getting to this ideal life now where your mind can be performing optimally. The Buddha also didn't teach rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, and prayer. If you're seeing those kinds of things associated with the teachings of the Buddha, those actually aren't the teachings of the Buddha. Those are things that people are misunderstanding and they've maybe added in at different times over the years. The Buddha never taught any of those kinds of things. He taught you to be able to train your mind. And there's various teachings that he shared that you can learn, investigate, and examine. You can reflect on them to verify whether they're true or they're false. And then you can practice his teachings, integrating them into your day-to-day life. And that's what I do here, is help students to be able to understand that. And we have these different programs. So the group learning program is a great place for people to start on Sundays and Wednesdays, where I basically teach for 15, 20, 30 minutes, open up for questions, teach another 15, 20, 30 minutes, open up for questions. We even this afternoon at 1 p.m. to 4 p.m., we have an introduction to the Teachings of the Buddha course, which is a 3-hour course where you can be learning what is the teachings of the Buddha and what they are not. And then I'm going to be sharing the very first teaching of the Buddha, which is called the Four Noble Truths. That's an excellent place for somebody to get started. Or maybe even something like next week, Monday through Friday, from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., I have a Foundation in the Path to Enlightenment course where I'm going to be sharing all the foundational teachings to help someone get on the path to enlightenment. And there's other opportunities to learn as well in other courses and retreats and things like that. What this particular program is on Saturday is that in this book series that I share with the original words of the Buddha, in the group learning program, we explore volume 1, and that takes us about 7 months in that particular program. Where this program, each Saturday, we explore volumes 2 through 13, where that takes about 1.5 years to gradually go through all of those books. And usually students who are coming into this particular program, they've actually already developed a foundation in some of the other programs that we offer. And I know many of you guys probably haven't had that opportunity, and that's okay. You'll still learn plenty today as part of our program, but just understand this isn't where someone will typically start. We actually just restarted both of these programs, the group learning program and the Pali Canon and English study group, and we're in volume 2 of this. What we do is we actually do this more like a study group, where the other types of programs that I teach, that we actually do more of a traditional style of learning, where in this program, we do it more as a study group. What I do is I invite students here at the temple, and those of you guys joining through Zoom, to be able to read one of the chapters of the Buddha. This is actually his words from his lifetime. That's what the Pali Canon is. It's 45 volumes of books that are this thick, which captures the original teachings of the Buddha in his own words. But then you don't believe those. You learn, you reflect, and you practice. So if someone here or someone in Zoom would like to read this, you can see this particular chapter is about a page and just a little bit of a quarter there. After someone reads the chapter, then I'm going to share some teachings on this. Then I'm going to open up to whatever questions you guys have related to this particular chapter. So it's more like a study group as opposed to like a traditional style of learning. So if you'd like to volunteer to read here, all you need to do is get a microphone. We have microphones in the white bowl there. Just come get a microphone, take it back to your seat. If you press the gray button, you're going to see the lights come on, and you can just hold it up to your chin, and we'll be able to hear you here at the temple. They'll be able to hear you online as well. If you speak here without a microphone, they won't be able to hear you online. And then if you'd like to keep these microphones with you, you can keep it with you, because you might have a question, or someone around you might have a question, and you can just share it with the people around you. And then if you're not using it, if you could just turn it off by, again, pressing the gray button, that'll make sure we don't get any feedback through the speakers. And then for anybody who's in Zoom, if you'd like to volunteer to read, you can electronically raise your hand, unmute your microphone, and then ask any and all questions that way, or you can actually read as well. And then for those of you guys in Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, you can ask questions by putting that in the comment section, or in Zoom, you can raise your hand. And then here, you guys can use the microphone to ask questions. So it looks like Chris online in Zoom is volunteering to read. So go ahead, sir.
A strong post or pillar is a designation for mindfulness. How, monks, is there restraint? Here, having seen a form with the eye, having heard a sound with the ear, having smelt an odor with the nose, having tasted a flavor with the tongue, having touched a physical object with the body, having recognized a mental object with the mind. A monk is not intent upon a pleasing form, and not repelled by a displeasing form. He resides, having set up mindfulness of the body with a measureless mind. And he understands as it really is that liberation of mind, liberation by wisdom, wherein those evil, unwholesome states are eliminated without remainder. It is in such a way that is restraint. Suppose, monks, a man would catch 6 animals with different domains and different feeding grounds and tie them by a strong rope. He would catch a snake, a crocodile, a bird, a dog, a jackal, and monkey, and tie each by a strong rope. Having done so, he would bind them to a strong post or pillar. Then those 6 animals with different domains and different feeding grounds would each pull in the direction of its own feeding ground and domain. The snake would pull one way, thinking, "Let me enter an anthill." The crocodile would pull another way, thinking, "Let me enter the water." The bird would pull another way, thinking, "Let me fly up into the sky." The dog would pull another way, thinking, "Let me enter a village." The jackal would pull another way, thinking, "Let me enter eternal ground." The monkey would pull another way, thinking, "Let me enter a forest." Now, when these 6 animals become worn out and fatigued, they would stand close to that post or pillar. They would sit down there. They would lie down there. So too, monks, when a monk has developed and cultivated mindfulness directed to the body, the eye does not pull in the direction of agreeable forms, nor are agreeable forms repulsive. The ear does not pull in the direction of agreeable sounds, nor are disagreeable sounds repulsive. Nose does not pull in the direction of agreeable odors, nor are disagreeable odors repulsive. Tongue does not pull in the direction of agreeable flavors, nor are disagreeable flavors repulsive. The body does not pull in the direction of agreeable physical objects, nor are disagreeable physical objects repulsive. The mind does not pull in the direction of agreeable mental objects, nor are disagreeable mental objects repulsive. It is in such a way that there is restraint. Strong post or pillar, this, monks, is a designation for mindfulness directed to the body. Therefore, monks, you should train yourself thus. We will develop and cultivate mindfulness directed to the body. Make it our vehicle. Make it our basis. Stabilize it. Exercise ourselves in it and fully perfect it. Thus, you should train yourselves.
Okay, thank you, sir. So what you have here in these books is you have the words of the Buddha, which is what Chris just read. Here, this is a reference that takes you back to the original source teachings in the Pali Canon, which is the largest, most complete collection we have of the teachings of the Buddha. That will show you that this came from the original source teachings. Then you've got words from me that are helping you to be able to understand how to implement this in your day-to-day life, because it helps you to be able to have a dedicated teacher, a practitioner who can actually guide you through understanding. It's you doing the work to be able to learn and grow and develop on the path, but you need a teacher to be able to help guide you and point towards the things that you need to be able to learn and understand as part of your development on the path. So this is a particular discourse here that the Buddha is sharing about restraint and how the mind needs to develop restraint. Because what the mind has in the unenlightened state is something called craving, desire, attachment, wants, and expectations. This is the mind longing, yearning, and chasing after the objects of your affection. And if you get what you want, you're really happy and excited about that. You get pleasant feelings. But if you don't get what you want, your mind gets painful feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, and others. You can see this in your own life, that your mind is craving permanence. That if you bought a brand new car and you got so excited with that brand brand new car, well, then when it gets a scratch on the car, you get angry or frustrated. That's because the mind's craving permanence. It wants this car to look permanently beautiful, where in reality, you live in an impermanent world. Your car's not going to be permanently beautiful. Or if you get really excited when it's sunny outside, when it switches to rain, you'll be upset or frustrated or angry. Or if you get really happy when your bank account balance is up here, when it goes down here, you'll be sad or frustrated. All that's happened here is change. The mind is craving, it's longing, yearning. This is how we talk about it when you're learning in the basic classes, as craving, desire, attachment, longing, yearning, chasing after the objects of your affection. If the mind's not doing that in the unenlightened state, it will typically swing all the way to the other side, where your mind's dull and lethargic and complacent or lazy. What the Buddha is teaching you to do is to come to the middle, where you're gradually pursuing your goals, objectives, or interests, but you're not forming your feelings on whether or not you accomplish that thing or not. If you're actually chasing after something, and if you get it, you're happy, and if you don't get it, you're sad or frustrated, that's not a true goal. That's a craving, desire, attachment. That's the mind longing, yearning, and chasing after things. And as long as you keep allowing your mind to do this, you'll never actually get to permanent peace and permanent joy. That's what the Buddha is teaching you how to do to get to this enlightened mental state, is the mind will be completely peaceful and joyful permanently as a permanent mental state. So prior to learning this particular chapter, an individual would understand what's called the 6 sense bases. The 6 sense bases are your eyes, ears, the nose, the tongue, the body, and the mind itself. When we talk generally about craving, desire, attachment, wants, and expectations, we just talk about it in that way, just general. But when you look at it in real specific terms, what this being is doing in the unenlightened state is that it's longing, yearning through your senses. You see agreeable forms with the eyes, and you get really happy and excited about that. But if you see something disagreeable, then the mind gets angry or frustrated or some other painful feeling. Or same thing with the ears. If you hear, say you're at a stoplight and someone pulls up to you with some really nice music that you listen to and you find it to be agreeable, you'll be like, wow, all right, that's my jam. All right. Yeah, that's really good music. You might be so excited about that. But then if you pull up to another traffic light and somebody else pulls up to you with a different music and you hear a disagreeable sound in your ear, you'll get frustrated or annoyed. It's not the person with the music that's causing that. And it's not the music itself. It's the mind's craving, desire, attachment. It's sensual desire. The mind is doing this through all of your sense bases, your eyes, ears, nose, the tongue, the body, and the mind itself. The mind's craving, desire, attachment, the sensual desire, is seeing things as either agreeable or it's disagreeable. And now these agreeable things, you find that to be very pleasing, but then you're repulsed by these disagreeable things. So say you're walking down the street and you smell this beautiful odor coming out of a flower shop, and you smell that odor. It's like, wow, that smells so good. I could stay here all day and smell that. Right? But then you walk a few more steps and you get a whiff of the sewer coming up into the nose, and you're like, oh, that's horrible. And now the mind's repulsed by it. All this is impermanence, that the world is impermanent, that you can't experience permanently agreeable odors coming through the nose. It's just not possible because you live in an impermanent world. So the mind's favoring and opposing or agreeable and disagreeable is coming from the sensual desire. And what you need to be able to do is restrain the mind. You need to be able to pull it back. If you've ever ridden a horse and you pull the reins of the horse back to be able to stop the horse, it's the same thing you're doing with your mind, is you're restraining your mind and you're pulling your mind back. And the Buddha is giving this great analogy of these 6 animals, that if there's these 6 animals that are tied to this post or pillar and they're pulling and pulling and pulling in all these different directions, they keep getting yanked back and yanked back and yanked back to the post or pillar. Eventually, those animals are going to realize, I can't go anywhere, and I'm just going to sit down and be calm next to this post and pillar. Well, your mind is the same way. It's pulling and pulling and pulling. Wow, look at that beautiful woman. Look at that handsome man. Oh, did you hear that music? Oh my gosh, this. The mind's pulling in all these different directions. Well, if you keep yanking it back and yanking it back and yanking it back, eventually your mind can be calm and peaceful, where you can enjoy certain aspects of life, but you're not longing, yearning, and forming feelings on it. So you could eat that piece of chocolate cake and be like, wow, this is a really great piece of chocolate cake. But you understand that it's not permanent, that eventually the cake's going to be done. Or sometimes you're going to come to the restaurant and they're going to have that piece of chocolate cake. And then other times you're going to come and they're not going to have it. And that's just impermanence. But if you come to the restaurant and you get that chocolate cake and you're so happy and so excited, that means when you come and they don't have it, you're going to be frustrated or annoyed. So you need to restrain the mind. You need to realize that when you go to the restaurant and you order the chocolate cake and they have it, it's like, wow, this is really good chocolate cake. I really enjoy this. But then understand that it's impermanent, that maybe the next time you come, they don't have your chocolate cake. And it's like, yeah, well, of course, they don't have the chocolate cake because the cake is impermanent. And now you can maintain your calmness and composure. You won't experience those painful feelings. So this is a great analogy to understand how the mind is pulling through these six sense bases and you're yanking it back. And that's ultimately what's going to produce the peace and the joy. And the way that your mind can learn how to do this is through the meditation that we just did. That meditation, a breathing mindfulness meditation, the post or the pillar is your breath. That's the post or the pillar. And now your mind pulls where you have a thought about the past or the future, and your mind pulls, and now you yank it back to the breath. And then it pulls again, and you yank it back to the breath. And then it pulls again, and you yank it back to the breath. If you do this for a consistent long-term period over multiple years, over time, your mind doesn't pull. It understands. It just sits down close to the post or pillar, like this particular analogy. During your meditation, you will have thoughts during your meditation, even as an enlightened being. The goal of this meditation isn't to eliminate your thoughts. The goal of this meditation is to notice your thoughts sooner and sooner and to let them go easier and easier. That's what you're doing in this meditation. So in the unenlightened state, you'll have a bombardment of thoughts. You'll have lots and lots and lots and lots of thoughts. Or you'll have a thought and you'll follow the thought, you'll play with it, you'll look at it, you'll indulge in it. And next thing you know, you're like, oh yeah, that's right, I'm meditating. And now you'll bring your mind back. But in the enlightened state, you'll still have a thought, but you'll notice it right away, you'll cut it off and bring your mind right back to the breath. And then you'll have about 30 seconds to a minute of quietness and stillness in the mind, because the mind is just sitting there by that post or pillar, right? So the Buddha is giving you this great analogy, helping you to understand what you need to be doing is yanking the mind back. And in meditation, you cut off anything and everything that's coming up. But in your day-to-day life, you only yank back when you're noticing the unwholesome thoughts. That's what you're cutting off and letting go. That in your day-to-day life, if you're thinking about taking your mom out to lunch and you'd like to give her a call and check in with her, you don't need to cut that off in day-to-day life. If it came up during meditation, you would cut that off because you're training your mind to not eliminate, but to restrain the mind and cut off and let go of anything that's coming up. You're building this internal mechanism in your mind to be able to cut off and let go. But in your day-to-day life, if the thought of calling your mom comes up, yeah, give her a call. See how she's doing. Invite her out to lunch or to dinner. But if you're thinking about something unwholesome, like maybe punching your boss in the face, you should cut that off, right? Because that's going to produce unwholesome thoughts or unwholesome results for you. So you need to be able to cut off the unwholesome things that are coming up in your day-to-day life, in your mind. In this breathing mindfulness meditation is what's going to help you to learn how to cut off and let go, because your mind doesn't know how to let go in the unenlightened state. That's why when you broke up with that boyfriend or girlfriend, for a period of time afterwards, you were angry, you were frustrated, or you were lonely or bored, or you were missing this person because your mind was holding on and you were craving permanence. You were wanting this person to be permanent in your life when in reality they are impermanent. But at some point your mind let go. You were like, you know what? If he wants to be with someone else, so be it. And you let go. And that's where your peace and your joy came back. Or you're like, you know what? If she wants to live in a different part of the world, okay, so be it. And you let go. And that's where your peace and your joy came back. But again, your mind doesn't know how to let go. That's why it took a week or two or a month or two, or some people I've heard upwards of 5, even 10 years, and their mind's still holding on to that ex-boyfriend or ex-girlfriend. And now they're discontent, they're frustrated or lonely or bored or missing this person. That's not your love that's causing that. That's your mind holding on and craving permanence, where you can understand people in your life are impermanent and they're going to be coming and going, and that's normal. So you can use this analogy of the 6 animals pulling and getting yanked back to the post and pillar to help you to understand how to restrain your mind. And the Buddha is talking about this mindfulness directed towards the body and all these other things. What he's talking about here is awareness of mind. You need to have awareness of what's going on in your mind. You can almost feel your mind pulling when there's a craving, desire, attachment in your mind. If you've ever been in the mall and you saw a brand new pair of shoes and you're like, oh my gosh, look at those shoes. And your mind was just pulling towards it. Or, oh, new video game, new jewelry, new mobile phone, new computer. Your mind was just pulling towards it. That's the mind's craving, desire, attachment. It's trying to get satisfaction externally. So you get those brand new pair of shoes and you're happy for a period of time. But then after a month or two, it kind of wears off. Or you get that brand new job and you're so excited. But then after 6 months or a year, you're kind of frustrated. You don't like it anymore. Or you chase after money and you get really excited and you get more money. But then after a while, you're kind of frustrated or agitated. You want more and more and more. That's what craving, desire, attachment will do to you. It's like an unquenchable thirst that your mind is just chasing and chasing and chasing. So you need to learn how to restrain the mind and then be able to pursue your goals, objectives, or interests through wise decision making rather than chasing after it. And this is what's going to help you to be able to do that, where the mind can be restrained by having mindfulness or awareness of the mind so that you can see when your mind's pulling, not just in meditation, but in your day-to-day life. You can see your mind pulling and then you can just yank it back. And then over time, your mind won't pull like that. You'll be able to just gradually walk towards your goals, objectives, or interests. So do you guys have questions on this chapter? Remember, you can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom. Or in Zoom, you can put your questions in the comment section. Or here, you guys can use the microphones if you like. Looks like Chris has a question on Zoom. So he says, Teacher David, is reflecting on the 32 parts of the body and the 9 stages of the body decomposition part of mindfulness of the body and/or part of seeing the body as body, clearly aware and mindful? That actually helps you to build unattractiveness of the body. What's helping you to develop the awareness of the mind and awareness of the body is where you're in the meditation, you're focused on the breath, and anytime the mind moves off the breath, it comes back. And when you notice, say, like a itch in the body, you know that's happening. You're trying to restrain the mind. So if you notice your mind's having that urge to itch, then you restrain the mind and pull it back. So this is what's helping you to build that awareness. And you said, thank you, sir. You're welcome. And then here's another one. Teacher David, does an enlightened being still experience agreeable and disagreeable contact without conditioned feelings? No. The agreeable and disagreeable contact is no longer there. You don't see contact as agreeable or disagreeable because the central desire is eliminated. It's just contact by the time you get to enlightenment. That you don't see it as agreeable or disagreeable or favoring and opposing. It's just contact. You'll still have preferences where you might prefer a certain thing, but you can be completely content with this other thing too. So like certain foods, certain fabrics, certain things like that, you might have certain things that you're like, well, I like this brand of socks, but you can be fine with any other brand of socks. Or you like this particular fruit, but you could be fine with any other fruit too. You can eat anything, but that's part of the training to be able to expose your mind to all those things. Because oftentimes with food, you have certain foods that you like, and then certain foods that you'll be repulsed by, that you'll push away. That's because of the central desire through the tongue, where you're not going to actually ever solve your problem of the mind longing, yearning, if you just keep pushing away the things that you find to be disagreeable. You need to be able to expose the mind to all these different things. So an enlightened being, they won't see things as agreeable or disagreeable. They would have tested their mind with all these different things, and they've gotten to the point where they're completely fine with any of those kinds of things. but yet they will have certain things that they might choose to eat, but they would be completely fine eating everything else too, and their mind would be completely peaceful and joyful in that situation. So you're welcome, Chris. Pleased to help you there. And I don't see any questions anywhere else. Okay, so let's go to this next one. Is there someone here online that would like to read this next one? This is chapter 32. Rachel, you got it? Okay. Oh, the other Rachel also rose her hand. Go ahead. Rachel from online. We had Rachel here that volunteered as well.
Dwelling and breathing mindfulness meditation. Monks, that monk gains at will, without trouble or difficulty, that concentration through the development and cultivation of which no shaking or trembling occurs in the body, and no shaking or trembling occurs in the mind. And what concentration is it through the development and cultivation of which no shaking or trembling occurs in the body, and no shaking or trembling occurs in the mind? It is, monks, when concentration by mindfulness of breathing mindfulness meditation, has been developed and cultivated, that no shaking or trembling occurs in the body, and no shaking or trembling occurs in the mind. And how, monks, is concentration by mindfulness of breathing developed and cultivated, so that no shaking or trembling occurs in the body, and no shaking or trembling occurs in the mind? Here, monks, a monk, having gone to the forest, to the foot of a tree, or to an empty hut, sits down. Having folded his legs crosswise, straightened his body, and set up mindfulness in front of him. Just mindful, he breathes in. Mindful, he breathes out. Breathing in long, he knows, I breathe in long. Or breathing out long, he knows, I breathe out long. Breathing in short, he knows, I breathe in short. Breathing out short, he knows, I breathe out short. He trains thus, experiencing the whole body, I will breathe in. He trains thus, experiencing the whole body, I will breathe out. He trains thus, calming the bodily sensations, I will breathe in. He trains thus, calming the bodily sensations, I will breathe out. He trains thus, experiencing joy, I will breathe in. He trains thus, experiencing joy, I will breathe out. He trains thus, experiencing peacefulness, I will breathe in. He trains thus, experiencing peacefulness, I will breathe out. He trains thus, experiencing the mental activity, I will breathe in. He trains thus, experiencing the mental activity, I will breathe out. He trains thus, calming the mental activity, I will breathe in. He trains thus, calming the mental activity, I will breathe out. He trains thus, experiencing the mind, I will breathe in. He trains thus, experiencing the mind, I will breathe out. He trains thus, gladdening the mind, I will breathe in. He trains thus, gladdening the mind, I will breathe out. He trains thus, concentrating the mind, I will breathe in. He trains thus, concentrating the mind, I will breathe out. He trains thus, liberating the mind, I will breathe in. He trains thus, liberating the mind, I will breathe out. He trains thus, reflecting on impermanence, I will breathe in. He trains thus, reflecting on impermanence, I will breathe out. He trains thus, reflecting on fading away, I will breathe in. He trains thus, reflecting on fading away, I will breathe out. He trains thus, reflecting on elimination, I will breathe in. He trains thus, reflecting on elimination, I will breathe out. He trains thus, reflecting on letting go, I will breathe in. He trains thus, reflecting on letting go, I will breathe out. It is, monks, when concentration by mindfulness of breathing has been developed and cultivated in this way, that no shaking or trembling occurs in the body, and no shaking or trembling occurs in the mind. I too, monks, before my enlightenment, while I was still unawakened but intent on awakening, not yet fully enlightened, generally dwelt in this dwelling. While I generally dwelt in this dwelling, neither my body nor my eyes became fatigued, and my mind, by not clinging, was liberated from the taints. Therefore, monks, if a monk aspires, May neither my body nor my eyes become fatigued, and may my mind, by not clinging, be liberated from the taints. This same concentration by mindfulness of breathing should be closely attended to.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. So this is the Buddha's instructions on meditation, the way that the Buddha actually taught what's called breathing mindfulness meditation. This is the meditation that we just did this morning, where if you guys remember at the beginning, I was giving you guys some guidance, but then there was this period of time where it was just quiet and you guys were meditating. So this is the way the Buddha used to guide his students in meditation, but then he would just be quiet and let them actually meditate. So this isn't something that you need to be repeating in your mind over and over and over again, but he's teaching you what you need to be doing in the meditation. It's kind of like your parents first came to you and they said, hey, this is how you brush your teeth. You take your toothbrush, you put it under the water and you put some water on it. You put the toothpaste on it and you put some more water on it. Then maybe you brush your teeth, moving it in and out. They showed you how to do that. Then you rinse the toothbrush, you rinse your mouth. They showed you all the steps. And now, maybe when you first started brushing your teeth, you had to remember all those steps to be able to do it. But now you don't think about those steps. You just do it, right? So it's the same thing here, that the Buddha needed to guide his students and letting them know what they needed to be doing in the meditation, but then they needed to just do it. So this is breathing mindfulness meditation. This is a primary form of training in addition to other things that the Buddha shared in order to be able to train the mind to enlightenment. Again, you wouldn't be able to meditate your way to enlightenment. You need meditation, but there's other things you need too. One of the biggest myths about the life story of the Buddha is people think he sat under a tree, he meditated, and then instantly got to enlightenment. And this isn't actually true. It was gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. You can see this through his original teachings and his original words, and you know that to be true because everything in your life has been that way. Whether it's reading a certain language, writing, speaking a certain language, it was gradual training, gradual practice, or gradual progress. Or maybe some job or occupation that you have a special skill, it was gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. So getting to enlightenment is the same way. So the Buddha here is talking about the cultivation or the development of the mind through breathing mindfulness meditation, and how the body nor the mind will shake as part of training your mind through this meditation. Because when you're in the unenlightened state and you're experiencing anger, stress, anxiety, guilt, and shame and fear and all those other things, that's your mind shaking. Your mind is shaken up because your mind has that craving, desire, attachment. It's longing, yearning. And as long as it gets what it wants, hey, it's happy, it's excited. But when you don't get what you want, that's where the anger, sadness, frustration, guilt, shame, stress, anxiety, and other feelings come in. And the mind's all shaken up during these periods of time. So if you aspire to get to a point where your mind's not doing that, where your mind's steady and stable at all times, the Buddha's explaining how breathing mindfulness meditation is the way to do that. And then he's going through each one of his steps, helping you to be able to understand how to do that. He talks about here kind of like how to prepare the body and how to prepare the mind, setting up mindfulness or awareness of mind before you meditate. And he goes through each individual aspect here, which I'm going to teach at another time. And I teach this in more detail on Saturday evenings because I teach this class on Saturday evenings online at 9 p.m. And in that class, I usually go in a lot more detail. But just generally, what he's sharing with you here is to focus on the breath. Just like I was doing with you guys, we got your breath established first, right? I was like, okay, here is just to establish your breath. Just breathing in and breathing out. Just kind of establish your breath and bring your awareness of mind to your breath. So if you breathe long or short, just know that you're breathing long or short. In other words, fixate your mind to the breath so you'll know that your mind is on the breath. Then as you start experiencing any kind of bodily sensations, you're going to need to calm those, not allowing your mind to be upset or frustrated or irritated just because you have a little bit of an itch here or there. And then as you start experiencing joy and you start experiencing peacefulness during the meditation, just continue to focus on the breath. Don't get so excited like, oh my gosh, there's the peacefulness that the Buddha was talking about. No, just, okay, there's the peacefulness. There's the joy. Just keep focusing on the breath. Then as you notice mental activity, meaning you have various thoughts or ideas that go through the mind, you need to calm that down. So the Buddha teaches in another discourse where he talks about cutting it off and letting it go. And he talks about it here too, towards the end, where whenever you're having mental activity during your meditation, cut that off and let that go. Sometimes people teach you to count during meditation, or here in Thailand, they teach you to think pu to, or some people teach you to analyze your thoughts and ideas and your feelings during meditation. This isn't what the Buddha taught. None of that will actually lead to your enlightenment. So even though you see people teaching that, even if they're at a temple, even if they're ordained, even if they say that they've been learning and practicing the teachings of the Buddha for 30 years, the Buddha teaches you not to just believe what other people are teaching. And whenever you come across something that is in conflict with his teachings, that you should ignore that teaching. So the Buddha never taught you to do any type of counting or scanning of the body. He never taught you to say puto. He never taught you to look at your thoughts, analyze your thoughts, look at your feelings, welcome your feelings in. He didn't teach you to do any of that stuff. During this meditation, he taught you to cut off and let go, because you're building that internal mechanism to restrain the mind. Just like that previous discourse where the animals get yanked back to the post or pillar, that's what you're doing with your mind. So this is the original words of the Buddha. And you would like to be able to get your practice as close to what the Buddha taught, because that's what's actually going to lead to your enlightenment. If you practice all these misunderstandings in the world, you won't actually be able to experience enlightenment, because once someone changes the teachings of a Buddha, they're no longer effective to be able to actually lead to your enlightenment. So you'd like to do what the Buddha actually taught, but don't believe it. You learn it, reflect on it to verify it, and then practice it. And that's what's going to lead to more and more improvement in your mind. So you'd like to calm this mental activity. As you're noticing that you're starting to experience the mind, you're going to need to gladden the mind. This is kind of bringing some brightness and some radiance to the mind. You're going to need to concentrate the mind, meaning focus it on the breath. Liberating the mind is to free the mind of anything that's coming through the mind. Reflecting on impermanence is to understand any thoughts or ideas or feelings that are coming through the mind. These are all impermanent. Just cut that off and bring the mind back. Understand that they're going to arise, they're going to change, and they're going to fade away. Work on eliminating, cutting off and letting go. Down here where the Buddha is talking about letting go. That's what you would ultimately like to be able to do. And as you do this, the mind's going to develop more and more concentration, where eventually you'll get to the point where the body nor the mind is going to be shaking, right? That you're not going to be shaken up, not just in meditation, but in your day-to-day life too. Your mind can be stable and steady at all times. And then the Buddha talks about how before he was enlightened, that he spent time learning and practicing this meditation, and that his body and his mind weren't fatigued, that he didn't experience any fatigue. And if you aspire for the same objective, that you can get to the same point where your mind is liberated from the taints. What the taints are, they're pollutions of mind. He refers to them as fetters or taints or pollutions or defilements. This is what he's working to help you to be able to learn how to eliminate. He discovered these 10 individual pollutions in the mind, and then he figured out the tools and the techniques of how to eliminate them. I'm actually going to be teaching this tomorrow. As part of our group learning program, I'm going to be teaching the 4 stages of enlightenment, and I'm going to be teaching the 10 fetters or the 10 pollutions in the mind. So by the time you get to enlightenment, your mind is liberated from the taints, or it's all the taints or the pollutions have been eliminated. There's no more pollution in the mind. That's what getting to enlightenment is it's a path, a journey to purification of the mind, where you're purifying the mind of these pollutions. So you need to know what those pollutions are in order to be able to actually eliminate them. So that's why tomorrow I'm going to be teaching what these pollutions are. So breathing mindfulness meditation is helping you to be able to get to this point where you can actually restrain the mind, which is what he was talking about in the previous discourse. So any questions here on this chapter, anything you guys would like to ask either here or online? You guys are welcome to use the mics here, or online you can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom and ask any questions that you like. Rachel, I see you have a hand up. Is that a question? No, I see you shaking your head. No. Okay. All right. Maybe you're volunteering to read. Is that what that was? Yeah. Okay. Okay. So we have a question coming in on Zoom. It says, Master, I understand there are many ways of practicing meditation whereby some are taught to focus outward and some are taught to focus inward. The outward and inward ideology taught can be wrong or right. I don't think about it as right or wrong, because that would be putting yourself in a position where you're deeming that's what somebody else is doing is wrong. But if you're interested in doing what the Buddha did, he didn't do what you're describing here. He didn't teach that way. He didn't teach to look externally and focus outwardly. He focused the mind on the breath, and anytime the mind moves off the breath, you cut that off and let it go and come back to the breath. It's actually very simple, but people over the years have complicated it because they don't actually learn what the original teachings of the Buddha, and they don't necessarily practice those to be able to see the results. But for somebody who's seen the results, they understand exactly what the Buddha is teaching because they actually see in their own mind that it's produced these results where their mind is no longer experiencing any discontent feelings. So you're going to see countless things that people are teaching in the world, but that doesn't mean it would be wise for you to do those things, because oftentimes they're exactly opposite of what the Buddha was teaching. But by you seeing what the Buddha taught and then learning from a dedicated teacher and practitioner, you can understand that, okay, this is what's being taught. Now let me practice it myself and see if that actually works. And then when you see that this actually works, then you'll know, I saw it in the words of the Buddha. The teacher said it works. I didn't believe that. I didn't believe the book. I didn't believe the teacher. I tried it for myself, and now I can see it works. So I know that this is the truth. So that's what you would like to get to, is not believing any of those kinds of things. Okay, so then the same individual asks, Master, I see unpleasant things while practicing meditation. Is it normal? Yeah, the mind is kind of like standing on the top of a trash heap in the unenlightened state. And when you're training your mind, it's like you're kind of like clearing off the trash, and you drop down and you clear off some more trash, and you drop down and you clear off some more. And eventually you keep doing this, you'll get to stable ground. So oftentimes the mind has residual memories or thoughts or things that are in the mind from either previous lives or things from this life that you've actually buried. And as you're meditating, these things can come up. So whenever anything comes up like that, you just cut it off, let it go, and come back to the breath. Don't allow it to affect the mind and the stability of the mind. Okay, so I don't see any other questions anywhere. All right, so let's go to the next one, and we'll make this one our last one for today. This is chapter 33. Is there someone who would like to read this one? Actually, this one is very similar. Let's go to the next one. This one's somewhat similar. Let's see. Let me see what this one. Yeah, let's do this one. This is just only one page, chapter 34. Okay, so Rachel online, you would like to read? Go ahead, ma'am.
Is my connection clear?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. One who develops mindfulness of death diligently for the destruction of the taints. Monks, mindfulness of death, when developed and cultivated, is of great fruit and benefit, culminating in the deathless enlightenment, having the deathless as its conclusion. But do you, monks, develop mindfulness of death? When it was said, one monk said to the perfectly enlightened one, Venerable Sir, I develop mindfulness of death. The monk who develops mindfulness of death thus, may I live just a night and a day so that I may attend to the perfectly enlightened one's teaching. I could then accomplish much. May I live just a day so that I may attend to the perfectly enlightened one's teaching. I could then accomplish much. May I live just half a day so that I may attend to the perfectly enlightened one's teaching. I could then accomplish much. May I live just the length of time it takes to eat a single alms food meal so that I may attend to the perfectly enlightened one's teaching. I could then accomplish much. May I live just the length of time it takes to eat half an alm's worth meal so that I may attend to the perfectly enlightened one's teaching. I could then accomplish much. May I live just the length of time it takes to chew and swallow 4 or 5 mouthfuls of food so that I may attend to the perfectly enlightened one's teaching. I could then accomplish much. These are called monks who dwell carelessly. They develop mindfulness of death sluggishly and for the destruction of the taints. But let the monk who develops mindfulness of death thus, May I live just the length of time it takes to chew and swallow a single mouthful of food so that I may attend to the perfectly enlightened one's teaching. I could then accomplish much. May I just live the length of time it takes to breathe out after breathing in, or to breathe in after breathing out, so that I may attend to the perfectly enlightened one's teaching. I could then accomplish much. These are called monks who reside determined. They develop mindfulness of death diligently for the destruction of the taints. Therefore, monks, you should train yourselves thus. We will reside determined. We will develop mindfulness of death diligently for the destruction of the taints. Thus should you train yourselves.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. So one of the things that the unenlightened mind has is called complacency, that the mind is dull and lethargic. It's not really truly interested in doing the work that it needs to be able to get to enlightenment. This is because the mind's holding on with its sensual desires. The mind in the unenlightened state doesn't like change. It craves permanence. If you look at your life and the different times that you had difficulties and struggles in your life, those are the times that you were experiencing the most change in your life. If you were changing living locations, you were changing jobs, maybe you're changing relationships, maybe your income was changing. These were all very challenging times during your life because the mind in the unenlightened state, it doesn't typically like change. And one of the first things that you learn as part of the path to enlightenment is the world's constantly changing around you, that you live in an impermanent world. But then what you also learn as a beginning part of the path to enlightenment is in order for you to get to enlightenment, you're going to need to change. The things that you're currently doing now that is leading to your anger and sadness and stress and anxiety, if you keep doing these things, you're going to continue to experience those difficulties and struggles. But the unenlightened mind doesn't like change. So the mind is confronted with this idea of, oh my gosh, I don't like this anger and sadness and stress and anxiety, but I also don't like this change either. So the mind tends to hold on with complacency, being unwilling to implement the work that needs to be done, the effort and energy that needs to be accomplished in order to be able to move the mind towards this enlightened mental state. So the Buddha is talking here about developing mindfulness of death, that you can arise this determination, this diligence towards the destruction of the taints or the elimination of the pollution of the mind. That you would like to be able to understand that this being who you are not permanent. You are going to die at some point. Every single one of us. Death is going to come visit us. And you don't necessarily know when it is that you're going to die. So the Buddha is saying, hey, keep this in mind, that this being is going to die. And rather than be complacent and dull and lethargic and not putting forth any effort towards your development on the path, prioritize your growth and development on the path so that you know that it's important to continue to grow and develop as part of this life. That if you're not prioritizing some amount of growth and development as an individual, becoming a better and better individual, then you're just stagnating essentially, right? So that's what this path is all about, is about becoming a better and better human being, about becoming a better and better individual. And you're going to need determination, dedication, and diligence to be able to accomplish that. That's what the Buddha is talking about here at the bottom. And he's talking about how you can remind yourself like, oh my gosh, I might actually die in the next breath or two. Right? Or the next moment, you could actually die at any particular moment. So this is going to help you to arise determination and dedication. You shouldn't be scared. You shouldn't be fearful of the fact that death is coming. You can get to the point where you're not afraid of death. You don't have any fear of death. Oftentimes people try to avoid even thinking about your own death, but it's going to happen. And it's best to think about it and understand that it will occur. So this can arise dedication, determination, and diligence. But what it can also do is it can help you get to the point where you're not fearful of death. The Buddha has a teaching called contemplation of death, or reflection on death, where you actually sit and you close your eyes and you envision in your mind that you've actually died. And you convince yourself of that. It's kind of like you're a fly on the wall at your own funeral and kind of watching over your own death. And this will actually help you get comfortable with your own death. Because what people tend to do is they tend to push the idea of death to the side, and you don't want to think about it. You want to avoid it because it feels uncomfortable to imagine your own death. Because the mind is craving permanence. It wants to be in this world permanently, where in reality, we are all impermanent. So death is going to come visit you someday. It's going to visit every single one of us. It's waiting in the corner back there in the back of the room. It's waiting in the corner. And you can just let death come and sneak up on you, catch you by surprise, cut you off at the knees, pull the carpet out from under your feet, and you're completely shocked by that. Or you can be like, you know what, death? I see you back there in the corner. I know you're going to come visit me. So you know what? I'm going to come visit you. And that's what contemplation of death is, or reflection on death, where you actually sit and you envision that you've actually died. This is you going to visit death and getting comfortable with death, because you're going to need to do that at some point in your life. And if you wait all the way to the end of this life, again, it can catch you by surprise. But if you do that early on in your life, there's actually real growth and real development that can help you eliminate what's called desire for form and desire for formless. This is two of the fetters, two of the pollutions that the Buddha discovered in the mind. That's why he's saying that this contemplation of death, or this mindfulness of death, it actually helps you to lead to the destruction of the taints or the pollutions of the mind. So this is two aspects here. One, he's helping you to understand, to arise determination, dedication, and diligence toward the growth and development on the path to enlightenment. But then two, he's helping you to be able to understand that this mindfulness of death, or this awareness of death, this contemplation of your own death, will help you to eliminate two of the fetters that are in the mind, two of the pollutions, which is where the mind's holding on to this world, wanting it to be permanent, and then you're fearful of your own death potentially, where you can get to the point where you don't have that fear. You can just understand that, yeah, death is going to come at some point, and that's okay. Of course, you're not aspiring to die. You don't want to die, but also you're not on the other side where you're holding on to this world, craving for it to be permanent. You can be in the middle where you're not craving existence, but you're not craving non-existence either. You can be in the middle where you understand you are in existence and you make wise decisions towards learning and growing and developing, but you're not holding on to either side of this. And you just understand that, yes, this existence is impermanent. It's going to come to an end at some point, and that's okay. That's part of the impermanent nature of the world. So do you guys have any questions on this chapter? Anything you guys would like to discuss? Okay, I don't see any questions anywhere. Okay, so what I'm going to do then is just end class by thanking all of you guys for joining. Thank you for your interest in learning and growing and developing on the path. If you guys would like to learn more, you're more than welcome to. As I mentioned, this afternoon at 1 o'clock, I'm going to be sharing an introduction to the Teachings of the Buddha course. If you just come here by 1 o'clock, I'm going to be starting at 1 o'clock, where it's a short little course to be able to help you guys learn the very beginning of the Teachings of the Buddha, the very first teaching that he shared. I'm going to share with you 4 simple statements where you can understand the problem in the mind, the cause of that problem, the elimination of it, and the path forward. In a way that you can independently verify, I'm going to teach you why you experience anger and sadness and frustration and all these other feelings. And you can actually break through to being able to see what is actually causing these feelings, so that then you can actually eliminate them. And then tomorrow, I'm going to be teaching at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. here at the temple. This is the group learning program. We're going to be teaching the 4 foundations of mindfulness and the 10 fetters. At 6:30, I'm going to just be doing meditation with students and then just opening up to any and all questions that you have. That's going to be tomorrow. It syncs up with the Sunday night walking market. So if you're coming by for the walking market, maybe you'd like to come here at 6:30 or 9 p.m., do some meditation and do a little bit of learning. You can do that as well. And then next week, we have the Foundation in the Path to Enlightenment course, Monday through Friday from 9 to 3. On Friday, I'm doing a tour where I'm taking students out to 2 different temples, where you can visit a forest temple and you can visit a temple up on the mountain. It's basically like a classroom without walls, where I'm actually going to be walking through the temple and teaching you guys the artwork, the architecture, and the symbolism, where you can understand what you're seeing in these temples. And then on Friday evening at 6 p.m., we have a social event here where you can come and play games and hang out, listen to music, have some food and snacks if you'd like. It's time to just kind of hang out with each other. So if you'd like to attend any of these kinds of things, it's all available to you at no cost, including these books and these classes and courses. There's never a time where anyone's going to ask you for any money. You can come and learn and grow and develop. You can get the books for free by downloading them from our website. You can take it and go print it if you like. If you like printed versions, we just ask that you reimburse us for the printing cost so we can use those funds to purchase additional books. And then if you have access to Amazon in your country, you can order them on Amazon as well. I recommend you start with the first book. This is the place to really get started. And if you're interested in seeing the events that we have it on our bulletin board over there, and it's also on our website as well. So whatever you choose to do, have a very lovely and wonderful rest of your day. We'll see you next time. Sawadee krap. Sawadee krap.
Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.